had the manager of the local supermarket ring me up saying that people had gone into the shop the day before waving machetes and baseball bats in his face as their mates were grabbing whatever they could off the shelf. Stuff like that's not okay. And we see too much of it. Definitely in Clark, we see a lot of it. And at the end of the day, there needs to be consequences, not just to doing that and intimidating people and assaulting people, but if you're carrying a knife on you in your back pocket or whatever have you, and you're going into a shopping area or a public area, and you're doing it with the intention of intimidating people, and that's not okay either. There needs to be consequences for that as well, because people need to know that they're able to get safe from that.
Good morning, Tasmania. It's great to be with you all. I'm Felix Ellis, and this is Simon Barakis, and we're really excited to be with you all today. Today we'll be talking about some important areas of crime, particularly knife crime, public order offences, and the Tik Tok turkeys that we're sadly seeing too much of. Yeah. And this year as well, we've got some plans, Simon, to do some of these little video podcasts a bit more regularly as well.
Yeah, it was. We had a few great ones a couple of years ago, and then somebody went and made themselves a minister and got too busy for a while. So we got going, we got underway, and then we had to put that on ice. But we're digging it back out now, and I'm excited to be able to talk about things, talk about issues that are happening and facing Tasmanians, and the stuff that interests us and interests other people, and to really have some long form discussions about those important issues. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And I think one of the things we'll look to do this year too is a bit of audience mailbag. So if you do have questions or things that you want us to talk about, then please just either send us an email or drop some comments in the link. We're always really keen to hear your feedback, but I think it'd be a great topic for our discussions too. So in terms of today, Simon, we've got a few things on the boil at the moment. Obviously, it's been a busy Christmas, New Year period for our law enforcement and first responders around the place, and many people in Tasmania will have seen our new initiative to crack down on knife crime. This was an important commitment that we made at the last election, and we're looking to expand it even further with a new technology trial for metal detection wands for our police officers, so that they can search out knife crime in public places. I know you as a local member down here in Hobart have had some just awful experiences with local business people feeling threatened by young people in particular carrying very disturbing weapons in our public places, Simon.
Yeah, it's keeping people safe from knife crime is an important issue in Tasmania, but especially so in Clark, we've got those different central business areas throughout Clark, and there's been so many people that have come to me, and so many instances where people have been made to feel safe, where people have gone into shops or into shopping centres, waving machetes, waving knives, trying to intimidate people to rob or steal belongings or stock from shelves. But also there's been, unfortunately, a few incidences where the knives have been used and sadly and seriously injured or worse innocent people. And at the end of the day, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a staff member working in a retail shop or a cafe or a restaurant, or whether you're just someone going about their business wanting to shop or do the things that you need to do in day-to-day life, it's completely unreasonable and unfair for Tasmanians or for anybody to be going to work or going to conduct their business worried about whether or not they're going to have those situations thrust upon them, and whether they have to worry about being safe. Because at the end of the day, everybody has a right to feel safe and to be protected from these sort of vile acts.
And we've seen some devastating tragedies. I mean, I've spoken with the family of Jack Beasley, who was a young fella that was tragically stabbed and killed in a knife incident in Queensland. And from that just incredible tragedy, the Beasley family have started a new foundation, the Jack Beasley Foundation, and have been really pushing for Jack's Law to be rolled out around the country so that police have the powers that they need to get knives off the street, and that there's appropriate penalties as well as some education for our young people too, because we want to set the expectations that, in our culture we don't carry knives in public places. In Tasmania too, we haven't been immune from these tragedies either. The incredible advocacy of Lorraine Ludwig, whose son Reed was stabbed to death in 2019 in just an incredible tragedy at a service station in Blackmans Bay. She's been an amazing advocate for these tough new laws, and in honour of her work, we're going to be calling the new legislation Reed's Law as well, because it's out of just such an extraordinary tragedy. We want something good to come from it, and this is a big part of that.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think it's those tragedies, I think, give point out and show everybody how important it is that we take these issues so seriously. And I know there has been some questions that I've received. I imagine you have as well, Felix. People concerned about this being impacting on people going about day-to-day life, where they might need a knife or a similar implement. I used to be a plumber. I used to be a fruiter in the family shop. I used to carry a folding knife around with me nearly every day. I used to trim veggies and open boxes and the like. And that sort of use, as I understand, is still going to be allowed, still going to be protected. It's when people have an unreasonable reason for carrying a knife. Like if you're a young kid hanging around the food court in a shopping centre, there's absolutely no reason for you to have a kitchen knife in your back pocket ready to pull out at a moment's notice. But if you're a worker, if you're a tradie, if you work in a supermarket and you need a knife for whatever reason, that sort of use will still be allowed. It's not to stop people. It's not to restrict people's rights to go about their day-to-day lives and do what they need to do. But it is to ensure that people are able to go about their lives without fear of being placed at risk from those that want to use knives and stuff like that to intimidate and hurt people.
Yeah, 100%. So tradies, farmers, fruiters as well, like yourself, Simon, no change there. If it's for work purposes, it's all good. It's actually the same for religious purposes too. We've got a small but wonderful Sikh community here in Tasmania, and symbolic religious knives are a part of the culture there. So, yeah, this is very much more targeted at the idiots that carry around a machete in the Wellington Walk and things like that are, purely about intimidating and harassing members of our community. I think that's it. It's as well. It's important to note too for everyday members of the public that you can be searched with these metal detection wands. Part of the reason why we're lowering the threshold for these searches to make it easier for police officers to do it is because this new metal detection wanding technology, it's non-invasive. It's not, police aren't having to rifle through people's backpacks or pockets and that kind of thing. And that is a lot safer and easier for the community, and it's way safer for our police officers, which is part of the reason why they've been such big supporters of this rollout too.
And it is very, I did get a demonstration on this last year outside Parliament House, and it is very unobtrusive. It's the one they tap it sort of around you, and it beeps or it doesn't, and then they go from there. But if you're just going about your business and you get wandered, it's a very, very short, very painless and stress-free experience. It's quite easy, so it's pretty good. It means that people can know that they're being kept safe from knife crime in a way that isn't then really, really inconvenience and causing trouble for people. So it is really good. It's great technology. It's fantastic, and I think it's I'm a bit of a tech nerd myself, so I love nerding out over that sort of stuff. But it's really good to see that sort of stuff being used in a way that is really keeping people safe. And at the end of the day, when you do have particular groups of people that are using knives to intimidate people, using them to have to make themselves feel like they're cool and tough, or to use them to help them steal stuff. It's a terrible thing, and we all have, as a community and as a government and as members of Parliament, a responsibility to make sure that Tasmanians are safe from this sort of stuff. And I know it was only a few months ago I had the manager of a local supermarket ring me up saying that people who've gone into the shop the day before, waving machetes and baseball bats in his face as their mates were grabbing whatever they could off the shelf. Stuff like that's not okay. And we see too much of it. Definitely in Clark, we see a lot of it. And at the end of the day, there needs to be consequences, not just to doing that and intimidating people and assaulting people, but if you're carrying a knife on you in your back pocket or whatever have you, you're going into a shopping area or a public area, and you're doing it with the intention of intimidating people, and that's not okay either. And there needs to be consequences for that as well, because people need to know that they're able to get safe from that.
Yeah, big time. And Tassie's a really safe place to live. I think this is the best place in the world to live and work and particularly raise a family,
Yes.
because it is so safe too. But one of the disturbing things about the time that we live in is that we can have some of these criminal trends imported so quickly into our state, particularly through social media. And that's probably a good segue to move on to some of the other areas that we're looking to take some strong action in the new year, particularly around our post and boast legislation, because we're seeing, sadly, social media being used as a tool to glorify people's crimes and to also intimidate people. And the impact that you can have is just devastating on the victims. So Tassie's been really at the forefront of this in our country, and we've seen other jurisdictions looking to pick this up with Tasmania and Queensland's another jurisdiction that's really been leading on taking strong action with this posting and boasting kind of behaviour.
Yeah, and I think it is important to acknowledge, as you said, that Tassie is a safe place. But I think the reason why it's a safe place is because when there are potential risks or issues that are being seen in the community, we do act, and we do take action to ensure that it continues to be safe, and we do that without being too heavy-handed, like we might see in other jurisdictions where people's rights are really infringed on, as far as general people wanting to go about their business. But it is a twofold as far as what the damage that's done from these post and boast actions. It's, if you're a victim, like you said, if you're a victim that's been assaulted, that's been robbed or bashed or potentially worse, seeing that put online and seeing that shared around and potentially people laughing about it or whatever is a really, really traumatizing, or compounding the trauma of the experience. But additionally, we have a lot of young Tasmanians that are very, very impressionable, and they're seeing these things on TikTok, on Snapchat, on other social media platforms, being posted online, being shared and shared in a way that's made it to seem like the people that are doing it are cool and tough. And what that does is encourage impressionable young Tasmanians into similar lifestyles, because they're doing what they think is cool or tough. And we need to be supporting kids that are in that impressionable stage, especially kids that are vulnerable and come from vulnerable communities. We need to be providing them support, which we do and we continue to do. But we need to be making it really clear that sort of behaviour isn't cool. It doesn't make you tough. It doesn't make you, shouldn't make you popular, and it's not okay. And I think if that sort of behaviour is allowed to be shared on social media, and for people to brag about it and for people to use it to promote themselves as being tough guys, then I think it doesn't just cause further trauma to the victims. I think it also perpetuates this as some sort of lifestyle that's desirable for impressionable young Tasmanians.
Yeah, big time. It almost becomes like a criminal contagion, and you see the reactions that people get on social media for these kind of criminal behaviours and really just stupid acts. Hooning's an example of that, but there's a whole range of different things that we're seeing where young people are just doing the wrong thing, and young people in particular, but it can be people of any age who are committing these crimes, putting them up online. And as you say, those impressionable young people that don't know any better then think, hey, that's the way to popularity or at least notoriety, and really, getting those sort of, I suppose that sort of social peer support for things that are really stupid. I mean, I've said this before. much rather be dealing with young people with my skills and training hat on than my police minister hat on. We want people to be, going to TAFE or doing an apprenticeship rather than, looking up to people that are just simply up to no good on social media.
Yeah, and on that there's youth outreach programs and community programs that are really, really effective that we as a government support and definitely worthy of support, like JCP Youth that are helping and supporting vulnerable kids and kids and young Tasmanians in those situations and actually uplifting them. And it's been very, very successful in helping divert people away from those lifestyles. But it's important that we continue to do that, and it's also important to make people know and to make these people know that that behaviour isn't okay. We want to support them, we want to help them into a lifestyle where they have they have the support that they need, and the support that they need to be the best, to grow up into the best adults that they can possibly be as well. But the behaviour that we're seeing being posted and boasted about online, making people feel unsafe, making people actually unsafe, whether it's assaulting them or robbing them or what have you, just simply isn't okay. And when you see videos that, I think it was last year, when that Spaniard social media influencer came to Tasmania, and if you watch that video, they're glorifying some of those behaviours on that video, and others. It does glorify and it does romanticize this sort of lifestyle where they talk about things in some of those online videos, not just showing videos of the acts, but they talk about doing home invasions. They talk about stuff like that, and how it's some sort of lifestyle that's better than what everybody else is doing, calling people sheep, calling people stuff like that. Because they're not tough and they're not independent like people that perform these actions are. It's something that we do need to, I think, as a community, make very, very clear that it doesn't make you tough, it doesn't make you cool. It's not a tough thing to prey on those that you see as being weaker than you and get what you can out of it. It takes far more toughness to work on yourself and to as you said, engage with the skills and training and to do something productive like that. And I think that's the sort of thing that we should be encouraging. That's the sort of stuff that does make somebody a better person, rather than thinking they're cool, posting and boasting online, posting videos on Snapchat about robbing some poor shopkeeper or some 17-year-old kid that's working behind the counter, making them feel unsafe or hurting them. Like that shouldn't be something that anybody sees as a admirable or sort of behaviour that people should be striving towards.
Exactly, and it's not just stupid. The people who think it's tough, it's not tough. It's gutless. A lot of that stuff. And I know in Tassie, one of the interesting things about being a small and relatively safe state is that a lot of our crimes actually get committed by a very small number of people. And if you can really target those people and make sure that, they know that there's going to be a strong police law enforcement response to anything that they do, and that they're going to be monitored really closely, we're getting great results. Some of our task forces like Task Force Viper, Operation Saturate, that really target those career criminals that are doing it as a lifestyle, have shown massive success. Part of the reason why we're setting up this dedicated strike force in Tasmania Police with new police officers that we're recruiting is because we can make the biggest difference by targeting the biggest criminals, the ones who keep coming back time and time again, and who are using these social media tools to try and indoctrinate the next generation into following their stupid behaviour.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and you're right. It's a gutless and it's a cowardly thing to prey on people that you see as being weaker than yourself. It's a lot more tough to stick up for people that you think need support, and that's something that we support. That's something that deserves much more admiration than people that look for weakness. A lot of these these people walk around and try and act tough and try and show off how strong and mean and tough they are. But when you listen to some of their stories, or I've seen it firsthand sometimes in Hobart, and seen videos, CCTV footage the business owners have showed me. They pick on people that they see as vulnerable targets, and there's nothing tough about that. It's gutless, it's cowardly, and it's pathetic. And that needs to be the message that impressionable kids hear, is that there is nothing cool or tough about this sort of behaviour. It's despicable and it's cowardly, and makes you it's a weak person that does that sort of stuff, and it's definitely nothing that people should be inspired by.
Yeah, big time. And as with all important legislative change in this space, we're not expecting it's going to be a completely easy ride, whether it comes to knife crime or post and boast legislation, or a bunch of our other areas where we're cracking down on crime. I've already seen over recent days the usual whinging and complaining from the left-wing lawyers like Greg Barnes and others, but frankly, I think the community is seeing that that their approach is actually a big part of the problem rather than the solution.
And look, in fairness, I do appreciate that this is in many regards, it can be a very sensitive issue, and there's a lot of considerations to consider. But there's sometimes the people that are committing crimes are vulnerable themselves and need support. This is all true, but at the same time, we do have a responsibility as Parliament, as a government, as just members of the community, to ensure that Tasmanians that are going about their business, that are doing the right thing, and just going about their day, are safe from this type of behaviour. And whether or not people need support, and they do, and we continue to provide support through groups like JCP and through many of the initiatives that the government has. There does still need to be consequences to these kind of actions, because if you're hurting other people, or if you're making people feel unsafe, or making people unsafe, there does need to be consequences for that. Otherwise, and as you said, that attitude of following that line and avoiding taking action on these sort of things, like some that you mentioned promote, that outcome, I think, is very, very clear to see in other states, where as soon as those very few, and it is very few, I think, what was it, 50% of the crimes performed by 50 individuals or something like that.
50% of youth crimes committed by 40 young people.
Yeah, so when that small group of people realise that people like Greg Barnes, but others as well, are fighting to ensure that there aren't consequences for those actions, all that does is empower them and tell them that they can keep doing what they're doing and without consequence. And if anyone thinks that that's going to make the problem go away, I've got something else to tell you. It's not going to make the problem go away. It's going to make the problem worse, because people these people see that they can get away. They can effectively get away with anything. That's the opposite of the message we should be setting. The people that need support, people struggling, perhaps struggling financially, but also struggling, in the sense that maybe they need some positive role models, and they need some support from one of the other different avenues that they need support, whether it be psychological or educational or something like that. We should give them that support. And just because somebody does the wrong thing doesn't mean they're a bad person. But people do need to understand there are consequences for impacting on other people's safety. It's just as simple as that.
That's right. The victim always comes first. But even if we're focusing on the perpetrator, one of the worst things that you can do for a person is teach them that there are no consequences to their actions. So, yeah, we've got to make sure that we're, getting the balance right, and that includes enforcement. Now, Simon, you and I have committed to do these a little more regularly, so we'll pull it up there. But before we go, it'd be remiss of me not to give a shout out to all of the firefighters who are serving around our country and also overseas. People will be seeing the devastating effects of the fires in Los Angeles at the moment. It's a really just awful tragedy that's happened there, just massive, almost incomprehensible scale. So a big shout out to all of our career and volunteers who are getting ready for the summer. Someone often asks people this, but have you thought about volunteering either with fire or SES in your community?
Oh, look, I'm always happy to have a go at most things. I don't know if I'd be a help or a hindrance in such a situation like that. But I'm happy to jump in there and hold the hose, and definitely happy to volunteer my time if that means helping people. 100%.
I'll be sure to hold you to that. We can always do with good people coming into our emergency services, and for people in Tassie as well, with the bushfire season here. We're expecting a normal bushfire season in Tasmania, but that for us, we're one of the most bushfire prone places in the world, up there with California. So that means, we're probably going to see bushfires in the landscape that'll be burning for days and days of total fire ban. So you got to be ready, do your bushfire plan, and make sure you download the Tas Alert app as well. It was number one in the App Store, I think, during the storms that we had last year, and it's just so important. How the emergency warnings in your area and how you can make a difference.
Yeah,
and Simon, 100%. Before we go.
I was just going to say as you said, this time of year, Christmas, New Year's, and the summer, when people are out drinking and enjoying time with family and friends, and getting out and enjoying the weather and the beaches, and everything Tassie has to offer. There's first responders, there's the fire service, volunteers and career, there's SES, and there's the other first responders. In emergency services that are working hard while we're all out enjoying themselves to make sure that we're safe. And we can't thank them enough for their service. It's so important, and it's such a great thing for them to be out there, and we can only just give them our thanks and support as they do that. So while you're out, spending time with your friends and family, give thanks to those emergency services and first responders that are out there making sure that we're safe. In case there is a fire or an incident, but then when there is, they're working very, very hard, and they're putting themselves at risk to make sure that Tasmanians are safe. So thank you to all the first responders. Well
said. And last little thing, know you're a sports fan. Do you have a tip for the Big Bash tonight? Are the Hurricanes going to get a win? And do you have a tip for the Australian Open?
Oh, not on the Australian Open. Sure, of course the Hurricanes are going to get the win, surely. Well, everyone, that's us for this one. Thanks for listening in. It's an important issue to be talking about. Safety of Tasmanians and making sure that people are safe as they go about their day-to-day lives. Felix and I are hoping to do this more regularly, and there's plenty of issues to talk about, whether it's housing, whether it's issues that are close to my heart, like ADHD or many others, and also, as Felix said, taking questions from Tasmanians and helping answer some of the questions and concerns that you have. So we're looking forward to doing these as regularly as we're able to, and see you next time.